Hello, we are going to do a quick model of how to write the AP Prose analysis paragraph that we've been practicing in class. If you have not already watched the Prose analysis close reading annotation videos, so the video about how to go into a text before you write an analysis and closely annotate and look at literary devices and their purpose in a deep and thoughtful way, rather than a surface level like I'm reading it for the first time kind of way. Go ahead and do that before you go into writing one of these, because in order to do good writing you need to be able to do good reading. So pause the video now if you haven't watched that video or practiced close reading and deeply annotating in class recently, because it'll help you out and make this a lot easier. So the section of text we're looking at is the scene between Janie and the pear tree where she's sitting under it for the first time. And our prompt is evaluate how Hurston conveys Janie's relationship with the pear tree. Before I even start writing, I want to know what this is asking me to do, so I like to turn it into a question that I can just answer in a long, short answer form. So evaluate how Hurston conveys Janie's relationship with the pear tree. If I'm thinking about how Hurston conveys that, I already know I need to look at literary devices, but let's turn this into a question focusing on this how word. How does Hurston convey the relationship between Janie and the pear tree? As a reminder, this is not star writing, so I am not limited to 26 lines. Even though it's a paragraph, it's a longer paragraph than I might be used to writing. So I've already gone through and looked at a bunch of evidence. I've picked out literary devices and said their purpose over here and started to get an idea of what I think the relationship is between Janie and the pear tree. And what I notice up here is their experience through the use of imagery is described in very similarly. They're both going through this sexual awakening, a coming of age time, but by the end, through this metaphor, Janie is described just like the tree. So the same kind of images up here, Janie now has glossy leaves and bursting buds. Instead of her just looking at them, she's like kind of growing them. And then she's desperate to become a tree right before that as well. So my thought is, in my topic sentence, my literal claim is, and this would be my S, my like summary of what I'm about to talk about is, in the novel Their Eyes Were Watching God, book title, I'm going to underline it, the relationship. Notice how I'm using stems from my question and my prompt to form my topic sentence. The relationship between Janie and the pear tree. And let me give it a little bit more context about like which pear tree this is, but the pear tree in her backyard is one of identical twinhood. And then my analysis and explanation will go into what I mean by identical twinhood, meaning like they are the same person. And I'm talking about the tree as a person, as a character. They're the same character pretty much. So I answered the what is their relationship, but I didn't say how. Through Hurston's, so if I ever want to say how, easy way is through the author or through Hurston's use of, I'm going to focus in this paragraph on imagery and metaphors. Imagery and one metaphor actually. Okay. And metaphor. That sounds weird for a topic sentence, metaphors, even though I'm going to talk about one. So, a little bit of context before I give any kind of evidence. As Janie relaxes under the tree, because remember she's starting to think about this boy, and now she's relaxing under the tree outside her house. she begins to notice, notice I'm not saying the text says or just jumping into a quote. She begins to notice the alto chant, so it's like low hum of bees. End quote. I'm going to embed because I don't want to give a huge quote. Like I don't have time for that. I need to do more analysis as they, I'm going to connect it to another image, as they sink into the sanctum of a bloom. Gross, right? Presenting, so I'm thinking about this bee like going into a flower, and then the flower like receiving the bee. Yes, we're talking about the concurrent, or the at the same time, the simultaneous sexual experience. That Janie and the tree share. Let's add on that it's in springtime, so they share in springtime. This season, so I'm going to start analyzing kind of the background of this too. Like it is significant that this is in spring, that this is happening in spring, so the season is significant. As a time of transformation. Think about spring as a time of renewal, you know, things budding and flowering for the first time in the year. Just like Janie is, this is the first time for her transformation for both of these. Characters. So I'm just going to start thinking about like things that they're sharing now between, that this image is illuminating. And they're paralleled. I'm thinking about like this, I don't want to use the same word over and over again, like simultaneous, concurrent. Now I'm going to use the word paralleled because it gets boring to read the same word over and over again. Paralleled experience deepens. I'm just going to write for a little bit. Okay, again, I'm going to embed some quotes to support that, like, it's not just this one experience that Janie has that makes them the same, but she's later described to have glossy leaves and bursting buds. We got this metaphor now. She's not literally like growing leaves on her arms. Bursting buds. She has become the tree through the use, or just let's say through this subtle metaphor. Okay. Evidence for the metaphor, referencing back to my topic sentence, I said I was going to talk about imagery and metaphor. These are not unrelated either. This isn't two random examples, but I'm building the image more deeply with the metaphor I'm bringing up later on. So it's not just two random examples pulled together. I'm trying to connect them as best I can. As the pear tree, I'm about to come to a close, is, quote, frothing. I can't ignore this line. Frothing in delight. Like you again. So is Janie at the thought of marriage This is kind of paraphrase evidence because I don't want to include that line where she's like, so this is marriage. I don't think it's important enough. And they also share this revelation. And the revelation they share, oh, I quoted the wrong thing, revelation they share in this transformative season reveals. This word reveals is going to be your best friend. Like, reveals is pretty much a way of you always saying, like, what's the purpose or why did they do this thing? What does this tell me about them? This reveals what? Reveals that they're ultimately the same. So the relationship is that they're identical, that they are the same person, that they are, because of how deeply she identifies with this freaking tree, the same. Okay, purpose sentence. Let's close it up and bring it back to our topic and theme. Hurston, I want to leave Hurston out of the mix. She's the one that did all this. Hurston has effectively, looks like a C, effectively made both characters. I want to reinforce this idea that the tree is a character. The characters made both characters, look, feel, and act identically. Okay. This is just a paragraph. I've got my literal claim, my literal main idea that I want to get across, and that's my S sentence up here. I noticed plenty of evidence, so every time I noticed, what I'm going to do right now actually is just go through and underline all my evidence that my in step. Glossy leaves and bursting buds, frothing into light, revelation. I feel like I had one more, maybe not. I could have put more evidence in this. But all of this now, in between, is the analysis. It's connecting all of the evidence. See how this is like almost like a web of evidence that I connected with my own thoughts. And then this last bit here is my purpose statement that ties it all together. So it's very similar to my topic sentence, but it just reinforces the purpose of what Hurston is trying to do here in the theme that I connected it all through, which is that they're identical. They're the same person, the same character. Okay, so I hope this helps. If you have any more questions, just email me. But this can also serve, you can screenshot this right now and serve as a way for you to compare the paragraph that you wrote or that you're writing right now to the one that I just wrote. Happy writing and have a good rest of your day.